Kirby
God.
Smart crying. Um,
Wow.
in a year where the SEC set the record for the most draft picks, they had all these first round draft picks and everything. Like, it's a year where SEC fans are trying to sell the SEC and look at us. We have all of conferences. Uh, we have all of these amazing players, and look at how many players we send to the league every single year. Shane Beamer has said it. Kirby Smart says it. All these dudes say it. It goes back to similar to what I was saying about Maryland and one of the knocks I
Mhm.
had against Sharon Moore this year, which is like, okay, you have talented guys, but you didn't produce with them. At the end of the day, you are developing players for your team to win.
Yeah.
I enjoy seeing Ohio State players and Big Ten players, for that matter, go on to the NFL and have success. I think that's great. But if they didn't have success for my team or for my conference, sorry, I really don't like. I don't feel all that great about you because
Yeah.
you didn't actually bring anything to the team or the teams that I root for. So sure, the SEC can scream and say, "Oh, the 79 picks," which by the way, the Big Ten had 71. It's the most the Big Ten has ever had as well. The Big Ten is closing the gap, but nobody wants to
Mhm.
talk about that because they just want to say, "Oh, the SEC had all these picks and everything." Well, good for the SEC, but what did they do with that? They had one team get a playoff win this year. 79 draft picks out of that entire conference, 16 teams, and they had one team get a playoff win this year. Still have not beaten a Big Ten team in the playoffs in the past 2 years. A Big Ten team has not lost to another conference. A current Big Ten team has not lost to another conference in the past 2 years in the playoffs. It's not
Mm.
happened. They've only ever lost to other Big Ten teams and the SEC, or not the SEC, Notre Dame. They have not lost to any other conferences other than each other in the playoffs. If you ask me, it's more impressive that a group was able to do that with 71 draft picks instead of 79. So the SEC can rant and rave all they want about, oh, we got all these draft picks and all this talent and everything, but you don't have the coaches, you don't have the development, and you don't have the culture in your programs. Right now, the Big Ten does. The Big Ten has Ryan Day, who has created a phenomenal culture at Ohio State and has done a very good job building up skill positions. You have Michigan, who has been basically defensive line you the past few years with what they've
Mhm.
been able to do to get their defensive linemen up and put them in the league. They were even able to get JJ McCarthy as a top 10 pick 2 years ago, or yeah, 2 years ago. You have Oregon, who has, sure, you want to talk about their development or whatever, but still,
Mhm.
they're bringing in guys that are transfers and then they're sending them off to the league, right? Everybody's going to talk about Jabari Muhammad and how he didn't get drafted last year or this year. Well, talk about the other 10 guys that did get drafted because there were other guys there that got drafted as well. And they did develop some of those guys from the beginning. You know, Terrence Ferguson, other guys, they developed them as well. So they're showing
Mhm.
versatility and being able to do that. In addition to that, you look at Penn State, who sent 5 guys to the draft who sent 5 guys to get drafted this year while also
Yep.
bringing back a ton of guys. Zach, do you know how many teams in the SEC did not have a single player drafted?
I'm going to say one.
One, Mississippi State. How many teams in the Big Ten did not have a single player drafted?
I think four.
One,
Or is
Northwestern.
it one? Oh, Northwestern.
One. So, like, people can say, oh, well, the Big Ten just has more teams and yada, yada, yada. Well, maybe the Big Ten should have had more teams not get somebody drafted, but they didn't because they still
Yeah.
have good teams. They still have good coaches. And at the end of the day, these players are winning games for their teams and not just going off to the NFL. For Shane Beamer to say, well, we have more draft picks, and for Kirby Smart to say, oh, we got the most NFL talent. And well, guess what? NFL talent doesn't always win you national championships if you don't have the coach to do it. Nick Saban
Mhm.
is retired. The best coach in college football is no longer in the SEC. Kirby Smart is regressing. He does not have a handle on his team, as we
Mm.
pointed out, or as Jack pointed out on his show, and we reiterated here. Like does not have a handle on his team anymore. So as far as I'm concerned, the SEC, this crap about oh they're the best conference because they have the most talent, bull crap. You got to win with that talent. You want to have that talent, sure, win with it, and then you can call yourself the best conference. It's not though. It's the Big Ten best conference. Zach, your thoughts?
What a rant.
Thank you.
It's like one of the best rants I think we've ever had. There's something, I mean this. I think you're right in that there is a question about the effectiveness of the SEC and their coaching. One of the things that I was trying to, as you were talking, I was trying to figure out if, like, what's it been like from the quarterback position in the SEC, and I thought it was interesting, particularly like one of the names, and it was in the chat. One of the names that really shocked me is that Quinn Ewers went in the 7th round. He's got the tools, right? He has the measurables, but his tape is not great. I think a few years ago, Quinn Ewers might have been a first round pick, right? Like you look at a quarterback like Mac Jones, who was picked 15th, and like not that I'm not comparing the two in the sense that Mac Jones and like I think Mac Jones certainly has limitations, but like he was picked 15th overall. Whereas Quinn Ewers was in the 7th round, and is that just because his tape was bad? Was it because he wasn't developed? Like how is he?
I do wonder if that injury had something to do with it.
And that's possible.
But
But there,
Curse Rourke had the same thing, right? Curse Rourke
yeah,
had his ACL, which probably dropped him as well.
there is a development problem in the SEC. I think with quarterbacks and I think you're even seeing it still. Like Jackson Dart, listen, he is a decent quarterback. I don't know if he was late first round for a reason though. Like he wasn't going to be a top of the first round draft. I think Garrett Nussmeier might be one of the few names next year. If people want to say Carson Beck, that's fine. Go watch the tape. He's not a first rounder yet. Like, and I don't know if
That
he ever
wasn't
will
receivers. That was him.
be. Yeah. Like Carson Beck is not, he's not it right now.
Yeah.
And I look at the quarterbacks across the league or across the conference for next year. Arch Manning, there's a lot of smoke, there's a lot of hype, but we haven't seen it yet. Like we've seen a couple games. So
they're the kings of the hypotheticals. Right now,
Yeah.
everything with Arch Manning is a hypothetical. The dude played well against a group of 5 teams, and everybody
Yeah.
wants to say, "Oh, it's God's gift to quarterback now." He
Yeah.
could be.
Yeah.
I'm not saying he isn't or that he can't be, but let's see it on the field first. Let's see him
Yeah.
go out and win a national championship this year. Let's see him go out and be the best quarterback in college football this year. It could
Yeah.
happen, but I
Yeah,
want to see it happen first.
And then, Lenora Sellers, DJ Lagway, like those quarterbacks could be, but again, you got to develop them. I'm sorry, if Sellers is trotting out and doing what he did a year ago, that's not a first round pick.
Yeah, I mean,
Right?
he's got the raw talent. He just
Yeah.
has to do it. Same
So
thing with DJ Lagway. Like these guys have the
Yeah.
raw talent. It's just can the Big Ten or can the SEC develop them to be these great players? Like
Yeah.
they
This
have
is
to show it.
Yeah,
And that's my biggest thing with like what Larry's saying here. Like I totally agree with you, Larry, but I said the same thing about Carson Beck last year. What did Carson Beck do this year? Nothing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree with you, Larry. Just got to see it on the field. That's all I ask. See it on the field.
Development. Like they have, because and here's the thing, here's the struggle with what you're saying, and I'm not disagreeing with you, but I think if you look at the numbers, the Big Ten had 17 7th round picks. And so if you look at how the draft is weighted, the Big Ten was more bottom heavy in terms of draft selections than the SEC was. I think the SEC only had 7. So you can make the argument, well, the SEC is more talented. But I think your point is, but what are they doing to utilize that talent for high level playoff football? And I think that's even the question, that we're posing, that I'm posing too. Is I think maybe not question, but the thing I'm posing is, I don't think they've developed the premier positions like they used to.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. And I think that some of this too is have the premier positions been there more for the school and the desire to be there and the desire to be great for that school, or have they been there more for NIL?
Yeah.
And I think Nico
Yeah.
is one of the best examples of that right now. Like
Yeah.
he was not at Tennessee because he loves Tennessee. He was there because of NIL.
Yeah.
Fortunately for UCLA right now, they were probably the best offer he had on the table, so maybe you could argue he's for NIL, but
Yeah.
he still went somewhere that was home. So
Yeah. The other thing I'll just point out, where was I going to go with this? Forget it. I had it and I lost it.
I had one more thing I wanted to do. If you think of it while I do this, that's fine. So I said I wanted to be consistent, and if I was gonna knock these teams for what I was saying that I needed to knock Maryland too in the winners and losers. So, but I gotta knock these teams, Zach. The team with the third most picks in the NFL draft this year out of the SEC, you know who it was?
Is it LSU?
Ole Miss,
Ole Miss. Mm.
and they beat Georgia.
9 and
They have
3.
3 losses.
9 and 3.
So, like, you're losing to Kentucky?
Yeah. Well,
know,
according to Lane Kiffin, of course they should have been in the playoff.
Yeah, but sure, but you had 3 losses, and nobody's getting in with 3 losses. The next ones after that, Alabama lost to Michigan, and Michigan didn't have their best players playing in that one. What's Kalen DeBoer's coaching? What is he doing? Like, and this wasn't a team that just everybody left. Like, yeah, some of the really good players left after Nick Saban was done, but there were also really good players that stayed too. It's unfortunate.
Yeah.
Florida, 7. Like, you had 7 draft picks, and you win what, 5 games this year? So, yeah, I look at some of these teams that are at the top of the list of the SEC. Maybe these teams are bringing a whole bunch back. South Carolina, Texas A&M, stuff like that. If they are, prove it next year. But at the end of the day, it's not great for them to have all these draft picks and still not a whole lot of success on the field.
Yeah. No, agreed.
So, all right. Let's anything else on the draft or anything before we get out of here?
Nope, I'm good.